On this episode of Lake Life Lowdown, I'm joined by Pat Devlin from Remax Lake of the Ozarks. Pat shares the story of what first brought him to the lake, what inspired him to join Remax LOTO, and his unique perspective on how the lake and the community have changed over the years. Known for his wealth of knowledge, Pat brings us insights, stories, and a local's perspective that you won't find anywhere else. Hey everybody, welcome back to Lake Life Lowdown. I'm Christina Segretti with the Frank Campbell team, Remax Lake of the Ozarks, and I'm here today with Pat Devlin, who's also a member on the Frank Campbell team, Remax Lake of the Ozarks. I wanted to have Pat on the podcast today just to kind of go over some of what he thinks is going on here at the lake market and figure out a little bit more about Pat, just in case you've ever been curious. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Pat, what first brought you to the Lake of the Ozarks, and why did you stay?
Well, family vacations, came at a young age, did that. Then in college, good friend of mine, his parents own a development down here, a little resort. Came down a couple times. His mom said, hey, why don't you guys take one of the cabins? So coming down every weekend for 3-4 summers, I got addicted.
Yeah.
To the lake life, to the beauty of this lake, to everything it had to offer, to the fun, to the people. And can't shake it.
Yeah. It's like the mob. I kind of think of it like you try to leave, but they just pull you back in somehow. Yeah. Do you remember the moment that you knew that this was home for you? Where you were like, I think I'm just going to live here?
Yeah, I knew. I was in Illinois. My daughter was a junior in high school. And no offense to the state of Illinois, it just wasn't for me. And I was up in Rockford at the time. I had split time between Rockford, Chicago, and Little Town Dixon. And I wanted to get back to more of my Midwest roots, more of what felt like how I'd been brought up. And I always loved the lake. I always loved the Lake of the Ozarks, but I'm a water person. So I was thinking, hey, maybe an ocean, maybe go to Florida, stuff like that, Bahamas, Hawaii. And my mom, she told me I couldn't. So she's like, that's too far away. She lives in Omaha. So I'm like, sure, that's too far away. You can't move there. I'm like, Mom, I'm an adult. And she goes, you can't move into any of those places. So I'm like, okay. How about Lake of the Ozarks? You know I love the lake. That's on the list. And she's like, that's close enough for you to drive. So Mom gave me the blessing. So I started looking for places here. And the day after my daughter left for college at the University of Alabama, I was here, living here full time. So it's been lake life ever since.
Yeah. Okay, so how can you tell when somebody is officially a local here at the Lake of the Ozarks? Like, how long do they have to be here? Or is there some sort of an event that they have to attend or be a part of?
I would like to say you got to make people attend events, but everybody's a little different. And, we have such a wide variety, I think, of events, of people. And I think that's one of the beauties of the lake. You've got everything from the people that want to live in a remote area to people that want to live next door to the busiest bar on the lake. We get a lot of everything, people that I just want to put a fifth wheeler out on 20 acres out in the middle of nowhere and, me and my dogs. So I think to be a local, I think you have to survive at least one winter.
Yeah.
And, not that it's true survival, but it's just different. Things slow down. We are a community that a lot of our economy is based on tourism. A lot of the money that comes in is tourism. So it slows down in the wintertime. Some lakefront businesses close down. There's a lot of change. A lot of people go to Florida, Texas, or wherever for the winter. When you've been here through the winter, that's when you actually get to meet a lot of the true locals. I think we've kind of filtered out the people that are just part-timers and the people that are on vacation. I'd say I'd consider you local if you've survived a winter.
I think the second you can drive up or down one of the lake house driveways, I think that's when you have officially become a local. And I still myself haven't mastered that, and I've been here 30-something years.
We've all sweat through a few shirts showing homes on some of these driveways.
Yeah. Every now and then your tire will catch, and you're just like, please don't let there be a window behind this. Please don't let there be a window behind this.
Or you step on a steep driveway that's got pea gravel and you end up falling on your face in front of your clients.
Oh.
Yeah, that can happen too.
Yeah.
Trust me.
The experience or just,
Yeah, no, it's experience. but you're lucky when your client's a nurse practitioner.
There you go.
Yeah, they can help clean up the blood.
God. Well, what was it about Remax that brought you to Remax Lake of the Ozarks? Was there something?
If you use sports metaphors, you talk about Steel sharpens steel. I'd been in real estate down here for going on 4 years with other companies, and you just couldn't compete with Remax Lake of the Ozarks. It's I don't want to call it a monopoly, so the government comes in and breaks it up, but they've got so many resources for us. They give us every tool we could want for our tool belt. We've got the intercommunication between the agents on properties that are coming up or things to watch out for, or when you need help with something, you can reach out and say, hey, I need a landscaper that can be out to this property at this. Does anyone have one in their pocket? Or hey, my client's dock broke. Who's got a welder that they can call in a favor? And we have over 40% market share on average for the lake, so we are kind of the controlling factor of the Lake of the Ozarks real estate market. And to be the best, you want to be with the best. And
Yep.
there were just so many resources. And Jeff and Jason, as leaders, I could call them up at 10 o'clock on Sunday night and they'd answer the phone. And I used to joke with Jeff, if I call him late at night, he answers happy, and I'm like, no, you were saying, oh shit, it's Pat. Because nobody's calling him at that hour unless there's something wrong with the deal and we need his advice. But they've always been positive, and there's so much positive energy. You never hear negative from the leadership, and they're open-minded. When we see things that we think might help us, they're willing to listen. And whether they end up being practical applications or not, that's one thing, but they listen. Another thing that is quite unusual is the real estate teams themselves. We're in a competitive industry, but it doesn't feel like we're competitive with each other. They get along well.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to I've done real estate in other areas of the country too, and the teams don't get along. They're competing. It's like little gangs inside a franchise. Here, everyone gets along. There are a dozen team leaders I can call up and ask a question, and they'll help me. I know, okay, this person lives over in this area. They really know this area. I can call them and ask them for some help on my listing, and they're more than happy. So I think it's just, this is an amazingly well-run company. Anyone that is lucky enough to work for them will see that, the owners care, and it kind of trickles down to everyone else. It's amazing. For real estate, the numbers we do, it's unheard of.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. Everything. What do you think is one of the most important steps in the home buying process?
That's a tough one, because for those that have read our brochure, there are a lot of steps in it. I think that the biggest thing is the agent listening to the client and finding the right property/area. Because once again, main channel is 92 miles long. We have over 1,100 miles of shoreline. There are houses that I can boat to in 5 minutes, but it's a 45-minute drive from my house by car. So you need to take into account your client's needs. If they have a pacemaker that hooks up to the internet to update their doctor, we shouldn't be putting them out in some rural area where they can't get the internet. Now, Starlink's kind of changed that recently, but that was something we had to look at. Or if they have a history of health issues, you want to be somewhat close to a hospital.
Yep.
Parents that have kids, do you really want to be 50 miles or 50 minutes from a school? So I think it's a lot different than being a realtor like in St. Louis or Kansas City or a metropolis. We've got to take in a lot of other factors, about the family. You look at older people that aren't as mobile, might have a bad knee or bad hip. We got to worry about stairs.
Yep.
Hey, there's 61 stairs down to the dock. Are you really going to be able to go down there? You forget your keys to the boat. Are you going to take a nap and then walk up and get the keys and walk back down? We have, I like to say, a lot of extra layers to the onion being a realtor down here versus being one in Kansas City, where you're reading the HOA and going, okay, you can only have 4 colors on your house, and your fence can only be 4 feet high, and it has to be either cedar or pine. Down here, it's is the water deep enough? Amarin permits, a whole bunch of factors that can come into play. But we really have got to educate our clients so much more than a standard market, and they're dependent on it. And a lot of our clients do not live in our area, so they are dependent on the communication between us And a lot of times they got to trust us because we're going out and looking at properties and videoing them for them and FaceTiming. So it's a lot different than just calling somebody up in Overland Park, Kansas City area going, hey, the school district that you're looking at, a house just hit the market tonight. Do you want to swing by after work and look at it? We're calling them in Chicago and saying, hey, this just hit the market. I'll race out there. I'll shoot you a video. We'll FaceTime. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
So a lot different. It's,
yeah,
different than most markets in our country.
What's a myth or misconception about the Lake of the Ozarks that you'd like to set straight?
Lake of the Ozarks. I think, we hear like the Redneck Riviera and all that. I think a lot of people that haven't been here, they get their knowledge from watching the show Ozarks, or just thinking, they're driving down the street and they're going to hear banjo music or some guy standing there in overalls, with a gun. I think the biggest myth that once people get here is how diverse it is, how big it is, and all that, but also the amount of wealth that's here. A lot of the wealthiest people in the Midwest have second homes here, third homes. When you got that kind of money, some of them have 10 homes. But the amount of wealth, and when they come and they see these big bars like Backwater Jacks and Level 5, and they're like, that's like a Vegas swim up pool bar, and it's like, yeah. And I'm like, what'd you expect? A little inflatable pool. I told you we were going to a pool bar, and they're like, well, I didn't expect that. And I think we can compete. A lot of those bars can compete with stuff all over the country, and you're not going to find many lakes that offer what we do. Like where I live in Sunrise Beach, about 25-mile marker by Paradise Tropical Bar and Grill. There are roughly a dozen bars and restaurants that I can boat to in under 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that live in cities that can't drive to a dozen restaurants by car in 15 minutes. Just the fact that we have the diversity, but there is a lot of money down here, and there is a lot of resources, whether it's the locals or the second homeowners. I think a lot of people are surprised when they come down and they ask you, how much is that boat? And you're like, oh, about $3.5 million. And they're like, you're kidding. It's like, no. And that's 4 years old. So I think they'd be surprised at the financial resources of a lot of the people that live down here.
Well, you've seen a lot of changes happen here at the lake, especially like recently. There's been a lot of developments. What stands out to you the most as far as like a noticeable change?
I think the biggest change in this, and I'll say this, and this is partially coming from being a realtor, was once the toll bridge was gone. For some reason, there was a huge stigma from a lot of the people that lived east of the lake, more towards, we'll call it the St. Louis side. They lived in St. Louis or they lived in that direction. They wouldn't want to see homes in Sunrise Beach. And Porto Chima is an amazing upscale community on a golf course and all kind of, beautiful views, new homes, blah, blah, blah. But our clients didn't want to go there because you had to cross the toll bridge. And it's like, okay, you're buying a $3 million house. The toll is $2 in the winter and $3 in the summer. So you're maybe spending $408 a year. And that's probably stretching it. So I think I only spent about $1,200 a year on the toll bridge. So they're probably spending $250. But they didn't want to drive across that bridge. And even though Osage Beach was 4 minutes away, Lake Ozarks was 6 minutes away. But once that bridge disappeared, I think that opened up some of it. There was just that stigma. I don't want to pay $2, and you're like, okay, fine. What if I negotiate $278 off the list price and that covers your thing? But I think, we could point our finger at, the Oasis development that's going in, the racetrack, Ballparks National. There's so many things that people aren't aware of that are bringing in niche groups. Once the Oasis water park resort gets open, that's going to be year round. It's got a retractable roof. It's going to bring all kinds of convention business. It's going to have a Marriott next to it. I think once that gets going, that's going to have a huge effect on the lake. There will be a lot more full-time jobs. The people that are working there, making a good living year round. But I think getting rid of the toll bridge. And, for me personally, it cuts about 90 seconds off my drive back and forth to work because I don't have to sit there in line and wait so I can just shoot across that bridge. And
And you don't have to slow down to 35 now. You can just 55 the
yep,
whole way.
straight through there, and I don't have to worry. And it's not one of those things where you're driving to show a house, and all of a sudden you turn a corner and you're like, oh crap, there are 45 cars in line to get across that bridge. What happened? And it's somebody that's digging through their car looking for change or whatever to pay. And you're like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be late.
Yeah. What's one of your favorite memories since living here?
Oh, I mean, gosh, there's so many. I think I would say just family visiting, seeing nieces and nephews that had never been to the lake, and, seeing their eyes light up. We're doing what?
Yeah.
And we're going to boat to a place and eat breakfast. They're like, you're kidding. It's like, no, and going to a restaurant for dinner, and they're like, this is amazing. But I mean, and you could say the same thing with clients, when sometimes you take them out on the boat and you're educating them on the lake, and you just see people's eyes light up and they don't realize how much there is to offer and the
Hmm.
diversity of the lake and all of that. But I'd say just it would either be seeing friends and families eyes light up when you do something fun, or when you close on a house for a first time home buyer, you find somebody's dream home when it's the first time home
Yeah.
buyer and it's a young family and you've worked with them for a long time, get their credit cleaned up and they're very limited on resources, and you get that house. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. You can't look at paychecks. That's how we get paid. When you see, the little girl running in going, this is my room, and dad said I can paint it pink, and we're going to have a sandbox out there. You're like, let's
Yep.
do it. Or when the kid walks in and goes, Dad, we're buying this house. And you're like, oh, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of fond memories. Kind of hard to put just one.
Oh yeah. It like you said, it is really awesome when you get family to come visit, and you'll be driving to go get ice cream or something after dinner, and they see a deer, and they're like, "Oh my god! Oh my gosh!" It was, yeah, that's the best part. And you're just like, "Yeah, it's a deer. They're in the way."
There's the wildlife that is a good one, because like where I live today, they were re-asphalting my road and there were still 5 turkeys hanging out there. I mean, literally, just not the workers that were working on the road, literally 5 birds, turkeys that were hanging there. And I'm like, they're just watching what's going on here. And I've seen a flock of 40 turkeys cross that road before, and it's insane. Or to see the raccoons, which me and the raccoons and me and the groundhogs, we got our differences, but the rest of the animals I get along with. Love my hummingbirds, and I feed the birds in the summer and winter. I feed the fish in the summer and throw food out there, and I get 20 catfish coming up and 100 sunfish, bluegill. And to see my niece or nephew
Yeah.
look at that, like, look at all the fish, and have
Yeah.
fun with that. Like, I got a box of corn dogs in the freezer, and I give them a corn dog, and they hold that stick and they hold it in the water, and the catfish come up and eat on it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I was feeding a catfish and it was eating. It's like, hold on to that stick, hold on. But it's fun. It's a different world down here from a big city.
Oh yeah. Or you take them to like Shorty Pants and have dinner, and then like you see all the ducks and like the giant fish that are just swimming there waiting for you to throw a French fry over or something.
Yep.
And they're just like, oh my gosh, they're just right there, and you're like, yeah,
They don't eat their dinner. They feed the fish the dinner.
Oh yeah. What's the most unexpected or one of the funniest things that's happened to you while showing? Because I know there's, as a realtor, you get some
Hmm.
you get some loops.
Yeah. Well, I guess technically I can laugh at this, but it might be considered breaking and entering. I was driving out to look at a condo for a client, and basically it was a snowstorm. It was sleeting. We get like one of those a year. Of course, that was the day. And I pulled up to the complex, and it's just sleet drizzle coming down. And I look at the sheet for the door number, and I run up and I push in the door code, and it unlocks, and I go in there and pull out my camera and I start videotaping, and all of a sudden I see butter sitting out.
Oh no.
And I see food sitting out, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, where's the 3rd bedroom in this condo? There should be a loft. And I look at my sheet and it was all wet, and I misread like 2D instead of 2B. I'm like, I'm in the wrong condo, but for some reason they had the same door code, and I think it was a management company thing where the condo that we were looking at had been a rental, and I think the management company probably had a maintenance code on the doors.
Oh,
And
okay.
I mean, I look in the bedroom and there's luggage out and there's a guitar sitting there, and
Oh,
I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's why we always knock and say realtor,
yeah.
because, just in case. But yeah, I quickly figured out I was in the wrong one. But I've had to I've broken into at least 5 or 6 condos. I had to climb up to the second story to get in a window on one, all with permission. And I did kick in a garage door once, the side door, with permission. I knew a friend of mine owned the house, and I was showing it, and they didn't have a key to the door. And he's like, "Just kick it in."
Oh,
He goes, "I'll
God.
replace the frame." I'm like, "No!" And he goes, "Just so I got a pry bar and."
Were your clients that you were showing the house to, were they just like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He's kicking
Well,
in a garage door.
no, I mean, you gotta do it. You gotta do it to sell the house. And they heard me on the phone with him. He was a
Okay.
friend of mine. It was a fix and flip that he had, and his nephew had been working on it and locked the garage door. And it happened a couple times, and they didn't have a key to it. Just get a pry bar and kick it in, and he had to fix the frame. But he's like, I'm gonna have to do it anyway, so why show your clients the property?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I mean, yeah, that I had permission to do that, and I had witnesses. But yeah, there are a lot of times that we get locked out of houses. There's no key, or the key box isn't there, or the batteries died on the door code on the touchpad, and they'll be like, "Well, there's a bathroom window that doesn't latch," and it's like, "Oh God, I'll try." And yeah, so I've broken into my fair share.
Oh boy. Well, have you had a moment or a client with a client or in the community that has really stuck with you?
Gosh, I mean, I've had a ton. I would probably still go back to some first time home buyers I had where I literally had to clean up their credit for about 6 months. I did mortgages for a while, so I understood that world. And their credit was terrible. They didn't have much income, and they were great listeners though. And set up a program for them, got their credit from the low 500s up into the upper 600s, and they were able to afford a home. But just to see them walk in, with their kids, look on their face, they were low 20s and they never thought they'd be able to own a home. And that one sticks in my mind. Their daughter, how happy she was, and all of that. You never forget that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the stuff where, when you're having a bad day, you think about that and you're like, yeah, that was pretty cool.
You constantly kind of just try to chase that high of trying to, because one, you found the right house. Two, you got good people into a good home for them. And so it's just like you constantly are trying to like recreate that in every transaction that you have and every
Well,
opportunity that you get.
and there's so many speed bumps in the real estate journey. And a mortgage company I worked for, the owner had a saying, be a duck on the water. So you look at a duck out on a lake and it's just swimming along. And you're like, wow, look at that. That duck is relaxing, loving life. Well, underneath the water, its feet are moving 100 miles an hour. And that's how we have to kind of be with our clients, because there are always problems. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people don't realize everything that goes on with title companies, and where we got to get this document, we got to track down a neighbor, we got to so much here at the lake because real estate is so complicated. Even the easiest transactions can be just a pain in the butt.
Mm.
I've had transactions that took 6 months to close because things come up, and we got to be ready for those. And that's what's great about having, our broker Tammy, who runs our team. She knows everything, it seems. And if she
Yeah.
doesn't, then we got the owners of the company and Casey, and we call people that are experts in it and say, I'm in over my head, or have you ever seen this before? And they're like, nope, never seen anything like this. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And you pick their brains.
Yeah. In your opinion, what's the best boating event here at the lake? Shootout, poker run?
Huh.
Because I don't know if people know this, and I don't know how they couldn't know this, but you are an avid boater. Like you are on the water.
I try and go out a lot. I haven't done a good job this year, and I'm very mad at myself. But yeah, I used to average 150, 200 hours on my boat. every year. I think probably the shootout to me is the best event. Brings a lot of publicity to the lake. It brings just something different. It's also great for our economy. It's one of the busiest, if not the busiest weeks. But it's great to see down on the strip. They have all the boats set up on Wednesday night. And you go through and you're looking at I don't know how many $1 million boats. You're looking
Yeah.
at boats that go 220 miles an hour, and I think that's something that's hard for people to realize. And truthfully, I went to the first two shootouts. I went to the first one with my buddy, and I don't know how many 30 boats there, 40 boats there watching. There were not many. And then the next year, it was my birthday, and my friends were like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't want to go to that shootout thing because that was boring as hell." And they made me go. And so I did go to the first two shootouts, and it's changed a little since then. And then it was, boats going, "Oh, that boat went 78 miles an hour." And now it's like, "Oh, that boat went 178 miles an hour." And, they got airplanes, they got helicopters, there's a lot more going on. But no, I think the shootout, it's a very unique event. There aren't a lot of events like that around the country. So I think that makes us stand out as a lake. And, I met a group of people, 25 people that came in from Cincinnati just for the shootout. And they'd been at a big boating event up in whatever lake is out, say, Cincinnati. I didn't get an A in geography. But they were a big boating event there, and everyone said, "You need to see the shootout." So they're like, "Okay." So they came down, spent money, had fun, and they're like, "Wow, look at these boats."
So, well, what's your perfect lake day then?
Oh, it obviously involved a boat and sunshine. I don't know, go cove out, then go to a bar or restaurant, listen to a band,
Mm.
eat some food, and then probably end up at somebody's dock, hanging out, dock party. Late night swimming when, the lake's 88 degrees and you're just floating in the water listening to the frogs and crickets and birds, and you're like, this doesn't suck.
Yeah, it does not.
This is pretty cool. It's just so relaxing. And, you can taking guests on a full moon boat ride, and they're like, "Oh my God, look at this, is amazing." But yeah, beautiful lake.
It is definitely an experience to boat at night because I mean, it is a little. It's to me, it's tricky. I don't drive boats. I don't ever drive boats, but to me, it's just you got to have a lot of faith in your boat captain.
Yeah, you got, and there's some luck because sometimes you really can't see stuff that might be in the water, like wood. No matter how hard you try, you do learn little tricks. Like, I have a friend who grew up working in a marina, and I asked him, there's some night tricks, and he's like, you find a bright light, and you aim right at that because you'll see the light cascade across the water. So if by chance there is something in between you and that bright light, you see it. So if there's a boat that broke down, fishermen that don't have their lights on, you see something, like, hey, there's something there. And, knock on wood, I've luckily never had to evade somebody like that.
Yeah.
But no, at night, and a lot of it's knowing the lake. When you're comfortable with the lake and you know where you are, that makes a big difference. But for me, half the time it's almost easier to identify where I am at the lake at night than sometimes during the day. I'll be in someone else's boat not paying attention, and they're like, "We think we're lost. Where are we?" I'm like, "Oh, I see the green dock lights right there. We're at the 27-mile marker." And it just jumps out. Okay.
Well, is there a favorite like spot or hidden gem or like a favorite place to eat that you have?
I mean, my favorite place to go and eat is Backwater Jack's. Sushi over at the pool bar, and then you've got more of the continental food over at the restaurant. But I'd say for hidden gems, oh man, there are a lot of good ones. I don't want to. Backwater Jack's is too easy just to throw out there because that's a big monstrosity. Riverbird Winery out towards Max Creek overlooks the Little Niagara River. They have great food, great views. They have live music. I'm a huge music fan, so they like on the weekends and sometimes on Thursdays. I think they have bands or individuals playing. Very relaxing. It's a great menu. Matt, the chef there, is amazing. He can cook about anything. He actually cut his teeth as a sushi chef. And
Can you get there by car or just by water?
you have to go by car. You can't get there by water. But there are companies right there that are down below them that you can rent canoes and kayaks and stuff and play in the Little Nangua. But yeah, you can't boat there.
Okay. Now I have some rapid fire for you.
Oh boy, I gotta think fast.
Dock or boat?
Boat?
Well, if you're just gonna go hang out and relax for a day.
Oh, boat.
Tacos or fried catfish?
Oh, catfish.
Chiefs or Cardinals win?
Oh, Chiefs.
Margaritas or mimosas?
I'm not a mimosa fan, so I'd have to go margaritas.
Margaritas, yeah. Was it Papa Chubby's or Papo's?
I gotta go Papa Chubby's because I can go by boat. It's 5 minutes from my house by boat or by car. And from living in Chicago, they have a good Italian beef. It's close. And Papa Chubby was always nice to us and did learn a lesson. Don't call his wife Mama Chubby. But no, they have great food. And I love supporting the little local businesses.
Absolutely.
It's kind of divey. They have bands. I love live music. Go over there, great pizza, great food. And I would say Papa Chubby's.
There you go. Pat's recommendations. So where can people find you? How do they get in touch with Pat? If they're like, I need Pat Devlin as my realtor.
We've always got the email thing, pat@frankcampbell.com. My cell phone, which is on me at all times, is 303-842-1127. Used to live in Colorado back in the day. Can't give up the number because I don't think my friends from Colorado are smart enough to remember a new number. So I got to kind of make it easy on them. And I got a lot of great old contacts in there that I don't want to risk losing. Or you can go to my website, patdevlin.com. And
All right.
It's more real estate-y stuff.
Well, there you go. All right. And as always, stay anchored, friends. All right. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks for getting me on my first podcast. I feel famous now.